Okay, we are doing home infusion night. It's Monday, so I don't know. I'm thinking, how many bags should I do? One or two?
Probably one.
Okay, do one. If there's enough time, then I'll do two. But this is the first time I'm doing an infusion with this needle. I got it changed out Sunday.
A few days ago.
Sunday. So I haven't done an infusion yet. Oh, it was yesterday. Sunday was yesterday.
Oh wow.
So it'll be my first night doing an infusion with this needle, so it just depends upon how fast it goes. First thing that we need to do is get supplies, and I have to get better containers to store all the stuff in, which I might pick up some stuff tomorrow, actually, and sort it all out, maybe.
Okay.
But the first thing is obviously your bag of saline, and it's just a normal bag of sodium chloride, 1,000 milliliters, which is obviously a liter. So that's 1 liter of saline. I'm supposed to do 2, but it just depends upon how long it takes to do one. If I don't finish both of them today, then I'll do the second one tomorrow. And then you need a saline flush. Heparin. And this is for afterwards. Saline is for the first one, and
See the difference in the caps.
yeah, this one, saline. It's the first flush before you start everything. And then this is for when everything finishes. And this is heparin, which is just an anti-clotting medication or liquid, and it prevents there being a clot in the line. Because if you get a clot, that's
Like a
no
blood
winner.
thinner.
Yeah, a blood thinner. Next we need alcohol pads. And I usually grab 2 of them instead of just one. They're just simple little pads like this. You can get them anywhere, but our home infusion company supplies them. I get 2. Usually you only have to use 1, but I like to clean like the whole entire line plus this, because you obviously have to clean that, but this, just because it's constantly touching skin all day, and if it's like in the air and stuff like that, and people are coughing and there's germs in the air, it really should be cleaned. It just makes me feel better. And then your tubing. This is what you use to connect from the saline bag to your port. So, this is really important, but
Middleman of the operation.
yeah, without this, there is nothing. And I think that's it. You can use gloves, but if you wash your hands really well and you feel comfortable enough, which I wash my hands
A lot.
well, you don't really need them except for when you do your needle change, but we'll do a needle change video another day. Sounds so funny. So then you just grab all your stuff in a blanket because you're gonna freeze. So then I just lay everything out, except he just contaminated my area with his dirty foam thingy. I lay everything on a paper towel, which you don't really have to. I cleaned the whole thing before, but I just feel better with paper towel. And I just lay everything out. And then you get your stripper pole. This one, the home infusion company supplied us with, and we use, I think it's Home First or Health First Infusion. It's one of those.
I'm not sure.
I don't remember, but they're really great. So if you need an infusion company, just ask and I'll give you their number. But then this is the pole. I'm hoping to get one eventually that has wheels, because it'll make it a lot easier. If I need to like get up and go to the bathroom or whatever, I can just get up and stroll. But
Twirl around with it.
exactly. And then we gotta get a bag.
Always have bags.
Yes. I hadn't disinfected like all the knobs and stuff, I would wash my hands again, but I've already disinfected everything before. That way I can touch stuff and not have to worry about it. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I just set up my bag there. And then the first thing I like to do is open the saline bag. This is like the most annoying part. Just open the saline bag and not easy out here. When you open the saline bag, sometimes it's wet inside. This one actually,
Looks pretty dry.
yeah, it wasn't really wet. The nurse told us that like when you open the bag, sometimes it's wet, and that's just because of the condensation inside. But don't freak out, it's not like it's leaking or anything. So if you're worried about it, she said you can give it a little bit of a squeeze, and if water like shoots out, then you gotta be worried. But 99% of the time you're fine. So then you just hook it up there, and then you pull the cap off. And this one you only use if you're doing like another infusion too of something else, like vitamins or antibiotics, whatever. But this one, the right one, is the one that we use to infuse. The second thing that you do is you break out the tubing. And if you have someone helping you, you want to be the only one who touches this bottom part, because this is what connects to you, is this part. It has a cap on it, but you always want to make sure that you are the only person that touches it, because that is your germs, your body, etc.
Very easy to catch an infection.
Yeah, very easy. So far so good, knock on wood. So then I take off the cap first, because sometimes the water or the saline like drips through pretty fast. And then this part here has a cap on it. This is the chamber, chamber, and this is what the saline drips through. So you just take this top off and you squeeze this before you put it into there, and you hold the squeeze, like you don't let go until after it's connected. And this is to suction the fluid into here, into the chamber, so it can go into the rest of the tubing. So you'll learn how hard to squeeze once you get the feel for it. So then you take the tip and this and you connect it together, and it's kind of hard to get in there, but you just keep going until you don't have to get all the way to the bottom, but until there is fine. And then the fluid starts to build up in the chamber, and then you release.
Now everything starts to go.
And then it starts to flow. You want to make sure you don't have any air bubbles or anything in there, so you just let it drain a little bit, and you watch for any bubbles. You don't want bubbles in there, because if it gets into your port, it's not good. So you want to get, if it's tiny ones, it's okay. Those aren't that bad, but there are larger ones in here right now, and you don't want the large ones. What's cool about my tubing is that I have a filter on mine. Not all tubing comes with a filter, so this actually filters out the larger bubbles. So you still want to though run it a little bit just to get some of the larger ones out, just in case it doesn't filter through, but it usually does. So you just let that drip into the bag. That's what the main like reason for the bag is to drip. You can use a cup, but I like to use a bag because then you can just toss all your trash in there too. And you want to make sure that this is dripping. This is the clamp, and we're just gonna clamp it off. You just push it down, and then it stops the flow from flowing. This is the dial, and you just want to make sure it stays on open unless your doctor like tells you it has to be on a certain setting, but we just have ours on open, and that way it just free flows. Another thing with the chamber is that when you have it released and you have it flowing, you want to make sure that it's not filling up or that it's not empty. If it's empty, completely empty, then that really means that like it's going too fast. And when you are getting IV fluids, you don't, for POTS patients anyway, you don't want it to run super fast because one, you could vomit, and two, it kind of defeats the purpose of like the hydration. Like just a huge flow of liquid isn't good for you. So a slower drip is okay. When the port's working good or we got like a good stick, it usually takes an hour to drip. But when I had that really bad stick, it took like 4, 5, 6 hours. It was terrible. If it gets too full, then that means it's not draining, and that either means there's something wrong with your port or there's something wrong with the tubing. But 9 out of 10 times it would be your port, and at that point you would need to call your nurse or go to the ER. So ours is good though so far. So then we're done with this for right now. So you want to make sure that this lays on a clean surface. So I like to lay mine on the paper towel because that is what connects to you, and you don't want that to get any infection or germs. So then you just open the alcohol swab thingy, and I like to clean this part first. That way I'm not like cleaning this part and then cleaning this part and then it's just spreading germs over there. So I just clean the whole thing, the clamp, which when you have your port, you'll have this clamped and then you'll unclamp it when it's time to flush and start your infusion. But this is just so that way, like, if blood comes back up or whatever the reason, you don't gotta worry about it.
Which we had happen once.
That was scary. So just gonna clean it off. Scrub, scrub, scrub. And then I'm gonna go ahead and unclamp it so I can move it and clean there. And then the last one is the most important one, and that is going to clean your connection. This, you start around this blue part, the bottom blue part first, and you just twist back and forth really, really well. And then you go back and forth on the top of it, and that just scrubs the germs. And these are sterile alcohol swabs, so it kills the germs. You don't have to wear a mask for this part because it's just really not necessary. Unless you're changing your needle, then you would wear a mask. But for just connecting, you don't need to do that. Okay. You let that just hang there for a second. You don't let it touch anything. Like if it touches your shirt, as long as your shirt's clean, you're good. And then you open the Saline. Flush. It's the one with the white cap. Your caps might be different, just depends upon the company. But ours is white. And the same thing that's in here is the same thing that's in the bag. And you just pop off the top and you hit around and make sure there's no air bubbles, which there's a really big one that's making its way up, there we go, to the surface. And you just keep flicking it until you see like all the bubbles up to the top. And then this is my favorite part. Yeah, it's good. This is my favorite part. I usually like to do it over people's heads because then they get wet. But you just squeeze it, you give a little push.
Oh.
Opa. And there's another bubble in there. And you push it. You want to make sure there's no bubbles because then you're pushing that into your port. Okay. So then you're going to take the connector and your saline and you're going to push it together twist it and push. And then it goes through. And yes, you can taste it. It tastes like cotton candy. Just kidding. Tastes like chemicals. Alright. That is done. And then you throw it out. And then you take your tubing and your connector and you push it together, and then you move this piece down, you twist it on, and you're connected. So there you got your stripper pole and you're connected. You are one. You be one with your pole. After that, you're just gonna throw that there, and then this goes up onto the table. And I know it looks absolutely ghetto and ridiculous, but
It works.
we're ghetto and we're ridiculous. So, we put it up there, and the whole point is because we don't have a pump, and because we don't have a pump, we have to rely on gravity for it all to flow and go into your BFF, your, what is this, what would this be called? Not a port, but like a your Klingon?
Sure.
Whatever. This
Get
is
a
your best
nickname
friend.
for it.
Like, we, Madison and I nicknamed it Pablo. It's Pablo. But anyway, so then the higher it is, the faster it drips. So if you get it up as high as you can and it doesn't drip, then you got a problem. Then you should probably call your nurse. But you, since we have this clamped, we are going to move it up and let it do its thing. Oh, that's a nice drip. That's dripping really fast, and once I sit down,
It'll go faster.
it'll go faster. So I might get away with doing 2 bags tonight and being able to crawl into bed at like 11:30, but I don't ever go to bed that early. So yeah, that is how you connect. I have a snack, and usually I don't have those, but I have Reese's. But I'm trying to cut back on Reese's because acne. But yeah, I recommend getting a snack, and if you want, you can do water. You don't have to do water because you're getting water, but. Okay, so we finished both bags of saline. It's 12 o'clock. So I'm just gonna show you how to disconnect really quick. It's like super fast. So this is done. Steve stopped it. Whenever this is finished, you do not want this to be completely empty and leave it like that. He stopped it obviously beforehand, but usually like you let this entire thing empty, and then the chamber, let it can be completely empty, and then you quickly either clamp it here or you can clamp it on your port tubing. But leaving it empty, then you just get all the air, and that's not good. So when this is done, you don't have to do anything else with it. So you just simply disconnect and discard if you want to right away. And then you take the heparin, which again is the anti-clotting medication. This one you can't like squirt up because it's the medication, so you just make sure there's no air bubbles. And then you take the end of your line, connect it, and flush. So I didn't finish out the, I guess, demonstration for last night, so I just wanted to say that I was able to complete both bags. I fell asleep after the first bag finished, so that's why I looked so tired, because I was sleeping when I started the second bag, and Steve just kept an eye on it and made sure that it didn't completely empty and that I was left unclamped. But I was able to finish both, and I went to bed about, I want to say midnight, which isn't terrible, but I fell asleep before too, so I got some sleep from before that. And oh, thank you. And yeah, it was
really, I don't know, I just became like super tired, and I usually stay awake for both infusions, but I was tired. But anyway, I just wanted to say, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more of my videos and be notified whenever I upload, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.